Hello, it's Dawn Michelle from Boho Tarot, and welcome to my monthly reflections video where we chat about the decks I worked with, the books I read, among other things, throughout the month of May. So usually I like to start these monthly reflections off by jumping right into the decks that I worked with. But this month I have a couple of things that I wanted to chat about first before we jump into the decks. I will have timestamps for everything below, so if you want to jump around, feel free. There are links in the description box. So one of the things that I did in May was I released my Tarot Tube in Real Life video. And this is part of a video series that I'm hoping to do showing tarot in real life, which is basically just how I go about different aspects of my tarot practice, like in real life. So the first one I started with was the Tarot Tube, was making tarot videos, because I get the most questions about that aspect, probably more than anything else that I do on my channel. I get lots of questions about how I make videos and what I use and all that kind of good stuff. So my kiddo and I thought we would get together and do a little kind of behind the scenes video just to kind of share how a day creating videos goes for me. So that was, of course, followed up by a whole slew of more questions. So one of the things that I wanted to do real quick was just kind of touch upon those questions that I got asked by a lot of different people, because I thought maybe that might be helpful for other people who are interested as well. So the first question that I got, and probably the most common question that I got, was, do I do that every single day? And the answer is no. That's not what my day looks like every single day. That's just what a day filming videos looks like. So the way that I kind of plan my day and structure my day, I have certain days, and these correspond with when other people are out of the house so that it's nice and quiet, with the exception of Ash, who is of course doing school from home, so always here. But when my husband is at work, those are the days that I record videos. And so I try to do as much video related content on those specific days as I can, and that happens about 2 to 3 times a week, depending on his schedule as well as my own. So that's not something that I do every single day, but when I do a filming day, that's pretty much how it goes. The other question that I got asked is, oh, I thought you started your morning with your cards. I do. And I also start my morning with some stretches and a short meditation, but that video was totally focused in on just making videos. So I didn't really touch upon the other aspects of my practice or my life that I do throughout a day. I will try to maybe include some of that in some of the other upcoming videos that I want to do in that series. It's not going to be like a monthly thing, because to be perfectly honest, that 10-minute video took a full 18 hours, broken up over 2 days, but a full 18 hours worth of work to create that 10-minute video. So they're very labor intensive and very time intensive, and so I'm going to have to kind of space them out a little bit so that I don't spend my whole time making just those kind of vlog style videos. It was a lot of fun. Ash and I had a lot of fun doing it, but it was very, very time consuming. So I will try to do some videos on some different aspects of my practice, and I will kind of touch upon those things that I do on a normal basis in terms of like maybe my meditations or my card pulls, my daily journaling, things like that. I didn't include any of that in that video because I was trying to really stay focused on how I go about the process of making tarot videos. So the other comments that I got on that video, and thank you all so much for your wonderful comments, they were fantastic. I so enjoyed chatting with you all about how making Tarot Tube videos goes. I do want to note that my process is kind of extreme. So that comes from having a background in design and marketing, and that's not probably how most people go about it. It was just my process, my day, how my day goes. So I got a lot of comments from people going like, oh, I could never make Tarot Tube videos because I don't have time for all that, or I don't have that equipment or all that. And I just want to say real quick, like, please don't let that stop you. Like, I go to the extreme with that. I already had, outside of the kind of handmade equipment that I made in terms of like my light boxes for my lighting, my table topper, which we will talk about here in a moment, because that was a huge one, and the video editing equipment I already had. And for the first year, or what am I going on, 2 years? So for the first year I made videos, I did it on my phone. That was all I had. And the video equipment, the editing software that I use is part of a monthly package that I have a subscription for from Adobe, because I have it for the other products for other things that I do for work. And so I already had that. So I do just want to say that please don't let that stop you if you are thinking about making videos. I have seen some of the most wonderful, touching videos made on a phone. And if you want to know what I'm talking about, go check out Candy from Candy Soul and Soil. I've mentioned her channel many times on my channel. She uses her phone and she makes the most beautiful videos. So please don't let that be a deterrent. This was just a snapshot of a day in my life, and it is not how everybody goes about the process of making tarot videos. I would love to see other tarot tubers do that. Like if you want to show your process or how your day goes, I think that would be so much fun. I did get a lot of comments where people were like, wow, I had no idea how much time that took. And while that wasn't really the point of the video, I'm so glad that it did kind of highlight the amount of work that people like me put into making these videos. So that was kind of just a happy bonus. It wasn't really so much a like, oh my gosh, you guys, here's the amount of work I put into these things. Like, y'all really need to appreciate it, right? That was not really the point of the video. It was more about just kind of sharing my day with you and how I go about this particular aspect of my life. And because it relates to tarot, I wanted to include it, and because it's also one of the things that I get the most questions on. So the other thing in relation to that video that I want to touch upon real quick is my table topper, because I cannot tell you how many comments, DMs, emails, Facebook messages that I got with the shocking revelation that I do not actually own a beautiful white farmhouse table. Maybe someday. I would love to have that. I don't have the space for that in here, and I have to kind of go with my IKEA specials. Yes, all IKEA furniture in here. That my husband lovingly built for me. So I apologize to those who were really shocked and a bit dismayed by the fact that I don't have a farmhouse table. It's kind of funny how that came about. It never occurred to me that that would like be a shocking revelation, because how that whole table topper thing came about was when I started making videos, I realized pretty quickly that my desk, which is behind me here that I do all my filming on, is very dark. It's like a walnut. It's not even real wood, like, right? It's like the walnut veneer stuff. And it's super dark, and it kind of has a little bit of a sheen on it, so it catches the lighting really bad and kind of does this weird glare but super dark thing. It's kind of weird. Anyway, it made filming really difficult. So my husband, who has a background in video production as well, although he does not help me with my videos, he really just doesn't have time, and nor do I really want him sticking his little fingers in my editing. It's like a thing. He suggested that I get a lighter background because that would help reflect the light better, diffuse it better, and also help showcase whatever it is that I'm showing in a more, in a better way. I'd already used contact paper for decks, right? So I was like, well, I'll just cover some poster board in contact paper. So I went on Amazon and I bought a roll of farmhouse, like I think it's like shiplap or something like that. I was mostly just looking for something that was white and something that fit my aesthetic fairly well. And so that was what I came across. I think it was like 10 bucks maybe. And I just took a piece of poster board from the dollar store, and I very carefully, because this took a couple different tries to get it to not bubble and to be straight, but I very carefully laid that across the piece, basically made it as big as the poster board. The contact paper isn't quite as tall, but it's close enough. It does fit on my table. That was one of the things that I was looking at. And I just lay that down before I make videos or take pictures or anything like that. So that's really how that came about, is just me trying to find a better background to create videos and photos on. It was not meant to be deceptive in any way. It was just trying to find a better way to showcase the decks that I wanted to share on my channel, and so that you would be able to see them and that the videos would look nicer and be better presented. I just wanted to chat about that really quick because I did get a lot of messages and comments and things. Most everybody was super sweet about it, and I thank you all so much for watching and for commenting, and I'm so glad that you enjoyed the video. Ash and I had a lot of fun making it. For those who have asked, Ash will be making some appearances here and there on my channel because we actually have a tarot related project that we're working on together. So there'll be more information on that coming along at some point, hopefully later this year. So those were the two main things. The other thing I wanted to say was that I had my birthday in May and I did a VR to Jessica the Story Witch, which was an old video that she did called Decks for Decades. She did it on her 40th birthday. I'm a little late to the party because I just turned 43, but that was so much fun to do. And I included pictures, and Ash and I had a lot of fun going through the old pictures. It made creating the video take 3 times as long as it should have, but we had a lot of fun going through the pictures. And I just want to thank everybody who left wonderful comments on that too, because that was so much fun. And I was a little like, I'm not sure, like I'm sharing pictures of like myself at like 5 years old or 6 years old. I think we figured it out. Somebody commented that there is a date on the youngest picture that I included, and I need to go back and look because I think somebody said it was like around 80, 84, 86, something like that. Anyway, then it was, you know, teenage me and my kids when they were little and things like that. But I love the way that it came out, and I had so much fun doing it. It was so much fun to be able to share that aspect of my life as well with everybody. And I do appreciate everybody's super sweet comments and all the wonderful birthday wishes. Thank you so much. Okay, so enough rambling about all that. Let's turn the camera around and jump into the decks I work with throughout the month of May. So I don't have a ton of decks to share with you this month because throughout the entire month of May, I was working with the Gentle Tarot. So one of the things that I like to do on occasion is to kind of go back to the basics with my tarot practice. And for me, that means doing a card a day draw. And for the month of May, I was using the Gentle Tarot for my card a day draw. Every day I pulled a card from the Gentle Tarot, and I actually did a couple of different things with it. I used it as the basis for my design, my layout for my everyday carry journal and planner that I use. I'll show you that here in a minute. Then I also, of course, connected with it in my tarot journal, and I also created a little altar that I put the cards up on each day. So I had this really slow, kind of wonderful experience with the Gentle Tarot. So let's just kind of take a flip through the cards as I talk about this beautiful deck and my experience with it. This deck was kind of what I wanted the Witch's Wisdom Tarot to be perfectly honest, and I'm going to talk about that in a different video. But for me, this deck is just, it was like an instant connection. I understood it. It understood me. I didn't have any trouble reading with it. I absolutely adore this artwork. It's very gentle, it's very nurturing, it's very calming, but I also found the messages to be really on point and really quite deep. Even though the imagery is a bit on the more minimalistic side, I think this is like one of my favorite cards in the deck. I love this hanging woman with this idea of her being on the swing. There is, of course, nudity in this deck, which I don't mind at all. That doesn't bother me. But I absolutely love the kind of freedom and expression and connection that this deck brought for me throughout the month. I think working with it just one card a day and working with it very slowly. I did do a few readings, some small 3-card readings with it just to see how it worked in a spread as well. And that was really wonderful. This 9 of Stones kept coming up for me. It was kind of my one of my stalker cards throughout the month. Not a bad card to be a stalker card. The courts have been renamed, which I think works way better for this deck. Like kings, queens, pages, and knights would feel a little out of place in a deck that is so in tune with nature. So I love the idea of the seeds and the flowers. So flowers are the queens, and we have the seeds are the pages. The harvest is the kings. Yes, seeds for pages, roots are the knights, flowers are the queens, and harvest is the kings. And I think that just works beautifully with a deck that is so in tune with nature. And I love how this deck actually kind of includes the human world and the natural world kind of blended together beautifully. I know a lot of people are like, I don't need another animal deck. It's actually not an animal deck. There's a lot of animals in this deck, which I do really love, but we have a lot of human figures in this deck as well. And it is just, this card came up for me quite a bit throughout the month as well, which was very fitting for May for me. Gentle is the best word that comes to mind. I think this tarot deck is very appropriately named. It's a very nurturing deck. It's a very gentle deck. Working with it one card at a time, working with it very slowly, very mindfully, really diving into the symbols and the elements on each of the cards, as well as the colors, was really kind of key in working with this deck for me. And I'll show you here in a moment how I kind of worked with it across a couple of different aspects of my life practice. But it's just, this Nine of Cups too. I love it. For me, this deck was just kind of an instant connection. It's a deck that I would put up there with my Llewellyn Tarot, if that kind of gives you an indication of how much I enjoy working with this deck and how deep a connection I created with this deck over the month. But one of the reasons that I like to kind of take things back to basic and just do the one card card a day draw is that it kind of does make me slow back down, and it makes me kind of just reset my practice. And so I tend to do that every couple months or so, where I will just take one deck and I will work with one deck for the most part, all on its own throughout the month, and I'll just do daily card pulls. And that is a way not only to help me connect with the deck and to get to know it on a really deep level, but it also is a way for me to kind of reset and refresh my tarot practice. So when I get kind of a little bit too habitual, and habitual is different than ritual, right? Ritual is kind of a habit with meaning. You don't just go through the motions. There's meaning involved. There is intention in the action, even if it is something that is habitual and you do it all the time. So ritual is kind of habit with intention, whereas habitual is just something that you do without thinking about it. It's not really an intentional practice. It's just, it's like brushing your teeth. You don't think about the act of brushing your teeth while you're brushing your teeth. You're thinking about other things, maybe what you need to do for the day. And for me, sometimes my tarot practice can become a bit habitual, and I like it to kind of be more ritual. And so when I feel like it's getting a bit into that kind of habit where I'm just pulling cards and I'm not really being super intentional or mindful about what I'm doing, then I kind of do this kind of reset where I'm like, okay, stop everything that I'm doing, pick one deck that I want to connect with, and go back to my basics. That for me is a way to kind of reconnect and restart my tarot practice and just kind of give it, kind of revitalize it. It's like, I think of it kind of in terms of like cleansing. It's like cleansing my practice. I'm going back to my roots, going back to my basics, and I'm going to start over again with just kind of a card a day and really sink into that practice. And it just makes me become more mindful and aware of my practice as a whole. And then usually I will go back to my kind of normal, more routine, but hopefully it will be a bit more intentional, a bit more like ritual, and less more like habit. And so that's kind of another reason why I like to do these kind of resets or cleanses for my practice. It's kind of just getting back to my basics and giving it a kind of a little bit of a refresh. So choosing the Gentle Tarot to do this with all throughout the month of May was perfect. It was the perfect deck for that. I love the matte gilding. I love the matte cardstock. It is a beautiful, beautiful deck. I really enjoy working with it. It shuffles quite nicely. I know it's gilded and I riffle shuffle it, but that is what it is. I'm not precious with my decks, in case you hadn't noticed. But I really, really enjoyed working with this deck throughout the month. It was wonderful for single card pulls. Look at that Temperance card. I love that. But I also found it to be quite deep when I was doing my 3-card pulls as well. Now this deck does really pair beautifully with a bunch of other decks in my collection, but I really just focused in on this deck for the month. And so it was really wonderful to just kind of get to know this deck on this really deep level and kind of working with these cards. It does come with an extra card called the Unseen, which I do leave in my deck, as you can see here. But it is just a gorgeous, nurturing, supportive deck. I feel like this is the perfect deck for kind of mindful draws. This deck for me really connected quite deeply to kind of what it is that I want to cultivate in my time here. And I found that this deck worked really beautifully, and the messages really kind of tapped into that energy for me of kind of reminding me why I'm here, what I want to do with my time on this earth, and how do I want to go about my life and my practice in a way that resonates with what I want to bring into the world. And so I feel like this deck worked just beautifully for that. Very raw and very powerful, but very quiet about this deck. It's a really interesting deck because we do have some cards that do feel like they have a lot of power in them. This Devil card's a wonderful example of that. This Magician card's another wonderful example. A lot of power in these cards. But on the other hand, it's also very quiet, very soothing. This deck is one that makes me kind of stop and think and really take a moment and just breathe and connect. And I think it just worked beautifully for that. Like I said, it's a deck that now that I've spent a full month with it, and the connection that I've created with it, it's up there with my Llewellyn and with, you know, like my Green Witch Tarot. It's right up there with my kind of, what I would consider kind of soul decks. And I feel like this one definitely taps into something very, very deep, almost kind of primitive and primal. And it's just, it was just a gorgeous, gorgeous experience. So let me kind of show you, because I did only work with this one deck all month long, I do have a couple of other, I do have another deck that I worked with that I want to share with you, because that's something, again, I'm going to be talking about hopefully at some point. So one of the things that I did, kind of my practice for the month, was I have, this is my little, like, my everyday planner, right? My everyday journal / planner. If you want to see more about this, I have videos of it on my other channel. So here we have the 9 of Cups. So my practice for the month was really starting my day with my normal kind of routine, right? And then I would come in here and I would do my daily card pull, and I would get out my little, this is my A6 everyday carry. And one of the things that I wanted to do was incorporate my daily cards into my daily planner. Now, this is not my tarot journal. That's like a totally separate thing. I just thought it would be really fun, since I was focusing in on one deck, to really connect with that energy. Everything I did this month, you can see here is my cover page. Here is my actual cover for one of the notebooks in my planner. And so I carried that theme throughout the month. I do a theme every month in this planner just because I enjoy it and it's fun. I share it on my other channel if you want to check it out. But this month I did a gentle tarot theme. And so it was really fun to not sort of pre-plan. Basically all I had done was put the craft paper on each page and wrote the date, because I have a 2-page spread for every day throughout the month. And that's kind of all the pre-planning I did. I didn't do any decoration. So when I came in here and pulled my card for the morning, here's the 9 of Cups, which was the card that I pulled for the day. I pulled elements from the card into the sort of layout of my journal. So by this point, all I had done was I had done my morning coffee, and I wrote my little to-do list, which was to go to the UPS store and Hobby Lobby. And these are like personal things, right? My work stuff happens in a totally different planner. I wrote that while I was having my morning coffee. So I hadn't done this yet. So I came in here, did my morning pull, and I got the 9 of Cups. And what I did was I just kind of doodled, picked out some key elements from the card and kind of doodled that and let it infuse my day. So I have these little flowers here that you can see. They're not exact replicas, of course, but it's close enough. So I have my little flowers, and then I did the little sun with the birds up here. I wrote my card. This one, normally I wrote it over here to that day. this Monday, I apparently forgot to write it down, and so I wrote it over here, but you can see I incorporated the imagery into my little planner. I also have my nightly card pull, which we'll talk about here in a minute. So here was the, Tuesday with the 8 of Wands. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here because otherwise we'll be here forever. But so here's Wednesday. I pulled the Tower. So I pulled in this was the Mountain that was on the Tower cards, just some green leaves, and then the lightning bolts. So I did that every morning. Some mornings it was, more detailed. I spent some more time. Like I, drew the little mountain and the little, water things, and then on this one I just did a couple of little flowers, and it was like no big deal, right? Here's another one, just a little rainbow, some drops. This was the Harvester Stone, and a little, actually this little flower wasn't there. I doodled that when I pulled my evening card. So it was really fun to incorporate that on a daily basis in this particular journal, which is not something that I really incorporate a lot of my card stuff into because it's just my everyday planner. And so I did that along with, of course, putting it in my tarot journal as well, which we'll take a look at in the next video. But just to kind of show you here's the Gentle Tarot, and like here was my first week. So, I incorporated the cards in here as well and did my normal daily card pull. And again, like I said, we'll take a look at that in my journaling video. And of course, every day I put my card on my altar that I created specifically for this deck, but I've decided that I'm going to keep it and use it all the time because I love it. And I love the idea of having an altar for my cards. Again, trying to get away from habit and get more into ritual. And so that was a lot of fun. I got a 9 of Stones hanging out over here. So that was a really wonderful experience working with this deck for a whole month. I really, really enjoyed it. It's definitely something that I'm going to be doing again because, as I said, it's something that I do to kind of refresh my practice here and there. And it's just a wonderful way to get to know a new deck. It's just to kind of work with the cards every day and to also, use it exclusively for your readings throughout the month. That does mean that I don't have a ton of decks to share with you today, but that's okay. We'll just talk pretty in depth about the ones that I do. So that was my month spent with the Gentle Tarot. So real quick, I just want to also mention the other deck that I use and have been using for months now. This is the Mother Mary Oracle. I did see there's a pocket edition coming out with this one, which has the, looks like borderless image, and then the text write-up is on the back. I actually don't use the guidebook because I'm really not a huge fan of the guidebook that comes along with this deck, but I absolutely love the artwork. And every night I pull one of these cards, and you probably noticed in my everyday carry journal, I would write down what card I got. I shouldn't say I do it every night. I do it most nights. Some nights I get busy and it doesn't happen. It's just kind of a part of my evening bedtime ritual, I guess you could say. Again, just kind of really setting that intention, and I love tapping into this imagery before I go to bed. I don't use the guidebook. I just look at the imagery and I read this very intuitively based on what the artwork is telling me and what the title of the card is. And so this is a deck that I've been using for months for this particular practice, and I am getting ready to switch out the deck because I feel like this one don't want to overuse it, if that makes sense. Ooh, she's upside down. I've been using it for, I don't know, 6 months, 8 months, like a long time. So I feel like it's time to refresh and do something different. So I have a couple of other decks that I got for that. And I'm really looking forward to using those for a while, although this is definitely one of my favorite decks to use for that particular practice. I just love the artwork and I love the imagery, and it's kind of part of a sort of evening meditation type of a practice where I just kind of use a card and kind of think about the imagery and kind of meditate on what that means for me, and kind of let that be sort of the last thing I kind of see before I go to bed. It's a beautiful practice and I really have enjoyed using this deck for it, but I think I'm ready to switch out to something else. So I'll be doing that at some point, but this has been a gorgeous one. Again, this is the Mother Mary Oracle. So one more deck that I wanted to share with you is a deck that I just got in, and I bought it as a birthday present for myself. This is the Future Ancestor Tarot. I do hope to do a video on it at some point. It says, these cards were created as a gentle reminder to live in gratitude for the steps our ancestors took to get us to where we are, here and now. May the magic embedded in each card serve you with love in our past as future ancestors for generations to come. So one of the things that really caught me about this deck is the color palette, the artwork. I'm not going to go through a full thing on it, but it's really interesting. The Magician is the Alchemist. I really love the limited color palette. It's just green and gray and red and white. Here's our Emperor. Our Hierophant is now our Virtue. I have our Lovers. So it says, during a period of deep grief, Alexa, who's the deck creator, embarked on a journey of healing through the creation of this body of work. Each card was collaged using sumi, I might be saying that wrong, sumi ink and pieces of nature that surround her home on the Coast Salish land, also known as Seattle, Washington. So that was another thing. It's, from a local artist, and I really wanted to support her work. So she used, you can see kind of leaf rubbings here, it looks like. And then drawings, some leaf collage here. So beautiful. I really love the color palette. I love the idea behind this deck. Our Hangman is Metamorphosis, Death, Temperance. There's something very striking about it. This Tower card I think is quite amazing. Look at the cracks under her feet. I have yet to work with it. You can see it's still in order. I've kind of been waiting to finish my work with the Gentle Tarot. I love this Moon card too. But again, there's just something very deeply nourishing and healing in this deck. It is by Lexa Luna Studio, and it's one that I'm really, really looking forward to working with. I've kind of had my eye on it over the last couple months, and then I was finally like, you know what? I'm gonna get it for my birthday. And that's what I did. So happy birthday to me. So that was a look at the decks that I worked with throughout the month of May, plus a peek at the deck that I bought myself for my birthday. So another thing that I bought for myself for my birthday, buying all my birthday gifts here, is this adorable orca mug from Mari in the Sky. Mari's the creator of the Gentle Tarot, and I saw this mug on her website and I was just like, oh my goodness, I have to have it. It's orcas. Okay, let's talk real quick about the books that I finished up and have been reading throughout the month of May. So I finished Sisters of the Solstice Moon by Gina Martin. I talked about this book last month. I really, really enjoyed it. It goes through the kind of setting up of the character and what I feel is a much larger story of all the characters. And the really cool thing is that each of the main characters in this book is a kind of living embodiment or a prophet or speaker for a goddess from a particular culture, region, or pantheon, which was really cool. So we have all of these different kind of living embodiment of all these different goddesses across the entire world, all coming together for this one story. I don't want to give too much away, but the first book really felt like it was just setting up all of those lovely characters. I love the idea of pulling in all those different goddesses from all those different cultures. It was so cool to see how each of them were depicted. And even though each section on each of the main characters was fairly short because there are a lot of main characters in this book, I really enjoyed reading it and getting to know each of them. And I have heard that the second book, which should actually be here today, I have it on order, I think it's scheduled to deliver today, is called, I wrote it down. The second book is called Walking the Threads of Time, and I do believe that goes further into the story. So I feel like this first book was really kind of setting things up, letting us get to know all the characters and where are they all come from, and kind of what goddess they serve. And I feel like the second book's really going to kind of dive deeper into the story. I found out about this book on Jessica Starr, the Story Witch, on her channel, and I do believe she said the same thing when she was like, it feels like it's really a setup, and moving into the second book, you really get into the story. which I do believe she's already read because I think this was a while ago. I saw it on her channel, but I am really excited to read the second one. This one just really got my appetite going for this story, so I'm really excited to dive into the second one. So the other book that I've been reading that I mentioned also last month is Seasons of the Moon and Flame by Danielle Dulsky. This is the third book of hers. I have mentioned the other two books when I talked about it in my last month reflection, how the first two books didn't quite click for me, but this one I'm really enjoying. What I'm actually doing with this book is, because it is set up seasonally, I'm actually going through this book. So I've read the whole introduction, I've gone through all of the spring information, and I'm getting ready to head into the summer information. So I'm kind of just working through this book seasonally, which I'm hoping to do for the rest of the year. So this is one that I'll be dipping in and out of for the whole year. So real quick, let's talk about the books that I am going to be reading. These are two new books. I bought a couple of books for my birthday because I got gift card for books, so that is totally what I used them for. The first one that I got is Witchery. What does it say? Witchery, Embrace the Witch Within by Juliet Diaz. I've seen this book around, and to be perfectly honest, one of the things that caught me about this is this adorable size and this cover. But then when I read the description, here's kind of what caught me. It says, being a witch isn't about hocus pocus. It isn't about how you dress, how you decorate your altar, or what you post on social media. That's like, I could do a whole rant about social media witches. It's an embodiment of your truth, the answer to the question from deep within your soul. There's work to be done, a call to be answered. The earth, our mother, needs us. It's time to rise. It's time to embrace the witch within. So I don't know anything about this book other than I see this beautiful cover all the time on Instagram. So I purchased this one because I was curious about it. I wanted to read it. It looks like it's going to be a fairly quick read because it is a lot of spell work in here. And here's the thing about me and witchy books. This is going to be a really rambly reflection. My practice doesn't look like anything you would find in one of these books. I have tons of these books. I love to read witchy books. I love to read books chock full of spells and beginner information, and because I feel like I can always refresh, right? But my practice no longer looks like anything you would find in a book. I don't do anything traditional, and I shouldn't say anything. I do very few things in a traditional manner. I am not big into spell crafting. I don't do a lot of spell work. My magical practice is kind of its own unique thing. It's its own beast. And it's just something that's evolved over the last couple of decades. I started a magical practice in the late 90s, and I have gone through many different iterations of practice. I have followed very strict practice. I have followed a Wiccan practice. I have followed a Green Witch practice. I've been in a coven. I mean, I've run the gambit, and I've really over the years kind of distanced myself from other people's practices and really tried to cultivate a practice of my own. So while I absolutely love reading witchy books, I won't utilize probably most of what's in these types of books because that's not how my magical practice works. So like the spells and stuff here, they're probably totally wasted on me because I don't do traditional spell work in that way. Or I should say very, very rarely do I do traditional spell work in that way, but I love to read them. They're like poetry, and I really enjoy reading spells. But as much as I love to read witchy books, I love to read beginner witchy books, I love to read advanced witchy books, this is not what my practice looks like. So it's more of just me reading for fun, entertainment, education, but I probably won't utilize most of what I find in the books. So another book that I picked up is Wild Soul Runes, Reawakening the Ancestral Feminine by Lara Valida Vesta. I may have mispronounced that. This is a really interesting book because it takes a totally different look at the runes from anything else that I've really read. I haven't really started it. I've just kind of looked through it, but so just here's a little bit from the back in case you're interested. The runes are many things: symbols, letters, sounds, instruments of magic and divination, but they are also vital beings with whom we can forge a relationship. Author Lara Valida Vesta shares an interactive practice that enables readers to discover the unique ways that the runes speak to them. Featuring a detailed 33-week practice designed to help you develop a deep personal relationship with each rune, Wild Soul Runes invites you to establish your own wisdom connection with the runes. It introduces you to the history of the runes, both in myth and through their connection with old European archaeological findings. This history offers evidence for the idea that runes have a feminine origin, deriving from the Well of the Norns, the triple goddesses who represent fates in Norse mythology. So I was totally fascinated by the idea that the runes could have a more feminine lineage or ancestry to them. So I picked this one up to read it. It is a like detailed, as it says, 33-week practice going through each of the runes. And I do hope to do that because I've kind of fallen off my rune practice and I would love to get back in touch with that. And so I thought this would be a really fantastic way to do that, kind of follow along with these prompts and go through the exercises for each of the runes and looking at them through this view of the ancestral feminine. A fascinating little book. I, again, have not read this one or this one. So these are books that I'm going to be reading moving into June. So one last thing I wanted to kind of mention and leave you with is a little bit of exciting news. I have been working on writing some articles for a magazine, and this is called The Collective Wisdom. Look at this adorable, adorable magazine. It says Collective Wisdom is a mini magazine about conscious, purposeful living. Each magazine explores wellness for the mind, body, and soul and includes messages of hope and courage to inspire you. Enjoy nature-inspired content and creativity in harmony with nature to craft a more joy-filled, balanced life. So this magazine, they do it 4 times a year. This magazine is created by Rebecca Lviv, who is the creator of the nature-inspired cards, the Flora, Fauna, and Fantastic Being cards, which I love. And I recently did a walkthrough of those decks on my channel. And she has created this absolutely beautiful magazine. I grew up in a magazine company, like my family owned one. It was tech magazines. Tech magazines before tech was really tech back in the 80s. And I grew up in a magazine publishing company and I would run around the press room and, you know, things like that where I probably wasn't supposed to be. But to me, and I also worked for a magazine for many, many years. So to kind of come back to my roots and to be a part of this magazine has been really fantastic. So I have an article coming out in the next issue on tarot and I'm so excited to be a part of it. Again, it's the Collective Wisdom magazine and it is absolutely beautiful. There is a print and digital edition, I do believe, but the print edition is absolutely gorgeous. It's just such a beautifully created magazine and I am so excited to be a part of it and so excited to have my writing published in it. Writing was always my first love. I have written all my life and published many, many things and I kind of got away from that and now I'm kind of getting back into it a little bit again. And so this has really kind of helped stir those creative juices for writing, kind of remind me of why I love writing so much. And so I'm so excited to be a part of that. So definitely please go check that out. It is a beautiful production. It is full of gorgeous information to really help you kind of create some well-being and balance in your life. And I have absolutely been enjoying it. So that's it for me today. I think I've rambled long enough. This was a really long one. I think because I really only had a couple decks to share with you, I maybe felt the need to fill in maybe, or I just had a lot to say. I think I just had a lot to say this time. So sorry if it was too rambly. Hope you skipped around if you needed to. I hope you had a wonderful May and I wish you many blessings moving into June. Thank you for joining me today. You'll find links for everything featured here in the description box below. I hope you enjoyed this video and I look forward to seeing you again soon for more creative tarot for an inspired life.